Welcome back, everyone, and thanks for joining us here on A Take on the Academy. If this is your first time here, I'm Matthew Sprosty. Today's a special one. It's the Season 6 finale. To wrap up the season, we're excited to have a guest who's a real advocate for great casting and a leader in putting Ohio talent on the national map. Our guest today is Angela Boehm, a casting director recognized for her thoughtful and authentic approach to casting across indie, commercial, and studio projects. She's been in the game for over 25 years, moving from theater to films and TV, growing her skills and reputation along the way. Angela began by founding Olmsted Performing Arts, a cultural hub in Northeast Ohio, where she supported local theater and performances. Her roots in community and performance later helped her dive into casting. She founded Angela Boehm Casting, which has become renowned for its exceptional talent, regional reach, and solid reputation. She joined the Casting Society of America in 2017 and has since worked on notable projects, including movies such as Cherry, White Boy Rick, My Friend Dahmer, and Fast and Furious 8, as well as the new Superman film. She has also worked on TV and commercial projects and conducted casting searches across major markets. Her work helps connect Ohio talent with bigger stories, putting Cleveland and Ohio on the casting map nationally. But what I really admire and what you'll hear more about is her dedication to storytelling through casting. She treats every role, big or small, as part of a bigger story, insisting on integrity, freshness, and quality in the faces we see on screen. So get out your popcorn, dear listeners, get yourself comfortable, and I would call any of your friends who aspire to be actors or actresses and have them come over, because what you're about to hear might get them a piece of that spotlight that they so deeply crave. They'll thank you later.
Hey.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I'm sorry. I know it's just a few minutes, but my day is like building. I'm getting email, and I'm like, I'm gonna get started so then I can, give it the attention. Yeah. I just figured if we could start a little bit early, but
no worries. And did you, I sent over the script and everything? Did you read over that? Is everything?
Looked at all of them, I think, except the last three I think I got.
We might not even get to all of them or none of them. It's just a nice casual conversation.
No, I appreciated it. Honestly, sometimes with these interviews, it's like, am I going to say something stupid? So, so it's nice to see what you're asking. Where did I oh, here it is. Yes.
All right. Well, since your day is building, we'll just get right into it.
Yeah, I got my assistants all set up. I thought this is a really light week. We have a film in Boston and it's only 3 days, but I swear these 3-day films, these short films are the hardest, worst ones. So it's called Love of Your Life with Margaret Qualley. And it's just they were filming in Europe and they're just 3 days in Boston. And it's kind of when that happens, sometimes so much isn't tied up and then we are paying the price in that 3 days, if that makes sense. So we were up late and up early dealing with that, but I have them set and I think we're good now.
From Cleveland, you were doing all this?
Yeah, we work a lot in Boston. We just did A24 Tony about Anthony Bourdain.
Okay.
We just did M. Night Shyamalan and Nicholas Sparks. Sparks wrote a thriller called Remain. So we just finished that.
Those two together?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with Jake Gyllenhaal. And then we just did Super Troopers 3. We've done 6 films there since June.
In Boston.
Yeah, Boston is really busy, which is great.
Well, let me ask you, since we're on this conversation, I had Mike Wendt come. I taught film studies at CIA over the summer for a pre-college course. And Mike came and talked to us about the Russo brothers filming in Cleveland and everything, but also that London and Europe are able to, have more incentives than us here in the States. Are we losing a lot to go over to, you just brought up London and this coming back for 3 days. Is this a thing to worry about?
Yeah, 100%. I belong to something called Production Weekly, and Production Weekly every week will tell you everything filming around the world. And if there are 35 projects, 29 of them are overseas. It's that bad. And it's been like that consistently since the strike. Because during the strike, people realize they can go overseas and they can film for less money and get the job done, way less money. And their incentives are very good, with some of the best incentives right now. And so that's a definite problem that unfortunately is going to be around probably for the next few years. It sucks. And that's why we in Cleveland, Ohio, my base is here, my family's here. I'll never move from here. Obviously, if I can work here, that's my preference. But all my bigger work right now is other places, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I do them from Cleveland. I've only been to Boston once and I've cast there since June. But yeah.
I'm going to be honest with you. Everything I know about casting comes from Project Greenlight, which was a show that I miss. I wish they did more than 3 seasons, or just anything kind of variation of that magnitude of like, here's the movie, here's the project, and we're going to show you how it all comes together. With casting, how does that all begin? You get a script from a director, and obviously we're all here to support the director's vision. But so what's your first thoughts when you get a screenplay?
So casting's one of the first departments brought on. It's going to be locations, but casting's right after locations, one of the first departments. And, we're doing the work before anyone even knows there's a story. So we get a script and we get a breakdown and we get a meeting with the director. And, you're right. It's all about telling their story, supporting their vision. And I think as a casting director, when you can learn to get into the director's mind, that's the best gift you can have, because it's knowing what are they hard set on, like what is their vision, but where do you have kind of the freedom to go, okay, I know this is written as a 30 to 50-year-old female, but there's a 65-year-old female that I think could actually really nail this part. And are they going to be open to seeing that? And, kind of what kind of creative freedoms do you have there with respecting their vision? And it's ultimately like that's one of the biggest misconceptions people have about casting directors, is that we are casting the film and it's all our say. And that is so far from the truth. Like, we have a lot of pull and we are definitely going to determine who sees the director, but it all comes down to the director. And sometimes when we cast and we get into callbacks or we give them that final link, sometimes the director will be like, Angela, what do you think? But oftentimes they won't. Oftentimes it's like, okay, this is who I want, or, whatever. So it starts early on with the script. And obviously, right when we read the script and we see that breakdown, people come to mind, because I've been doing this 15 years. And so I'm like, oh, I definitely want to read this person or that person. But we also always want to see new people, because how will you know if you don't see people? I always take a lot of new people each session so I can see. And then we read them and we filter. A lot of times I kind of work in 3 rounds. So like I watch the videos, and in the moment it's like, does this person have any ability to act or not? And in the moment, sometimes people look really great, but it's because you watched kind of 5 poor auditions prior. And so they look good in the moment. And then you kind of pass them on to that first round. And then you watch again, after you take a little breather, and then you see them with like some really strong actors, and maybe they're not going to stay in that link anymore. So I kind of go in 3 sessions there, and then your final link is polished. And usually most directors want around 10 options, but you mentioned the Russo brothers. When I worked with them, they wanted 3. They were like, give me your top 3. And that's it, so it just depends on the director and who you're working with. But then we give them that. They select, we do callbacks, they select who they like, but our job doesn't end there, because then we get into contracts and negotiating and all of that, those logistical things, and dealing with SAG and making sure they're able to work and all of that. And then we also do background, which a lot of casting directors don't want to do. I love it because, one, it's the time we spend on set. Like, I don't want to just be in front of my computer watching videos. I like to be on set. I like to see what I've done. I like to create the whole atmosphere. I like when we worked on White Noise, and Noah Baumbach was huge for character faces, and like just bringing him some of the best Midwest Cleveland faces that we could to do Boy Scout camp. Like, I love the whole picture, the whole story. So, it's a beginning to end, and it's everything from knowing your agents, knowing the whole region, who can work local, who's not local, but is worth bringing in and selling to the director, who fits the specs, and then what they're willing to do, their contracts, all of that stuff. I feel like I gave that to you in a really big lump sum.
That's fine. We'll try to break it down a little bit. First and foremost, when you are looking for, because it's like for any of the non-filmmakers listening, like it's sort of like a draft, right? Like you're just like figuring out who will work best where at. What information do you have to go off of? Like when you say, oh, are these people local? Like I assume that you're saying you probably have a file of like, these are the local actors. These are the people that are in Boston, say, or overseas that could be easily accessible. Schedules, agents. I know that agencies usually like to lump a lot of their people together, right? Is one of the things.
Well, we rely a lot on the local agents. And so we definitely will send our breakdown there. So, for example, we just cast Superman and we needed a 90-year-old hot dog vendor. And, in Cleveland, Ohio, all these agents aren't going to have all these copious amount of 90-year-old actors. It's just not. It's a smaller market. Mm-hmm. And so for that, we did have to go to Actors Access. And when we do, either when we have, difficult roles, or I know I did a film many years ago called Escape Plan, and we needed like 9 Mandarin speaking Chinese. That is also something I'm not getting from the Cleveland agents. They might have one. So we use Actors Access. And, there are also scenarios where our local agents will have people that are now currently living in Los Angeles, but they started here in Cleveland and they have family and they're happy to add Superman to their resume and come home and work local in Cleveland. We're not flying them in. They have family here. They'll get here on their own and they will be a local hire. So, I do know most of the talent here, and I can look at most talent and go, oh, they're with Doherty, they're with Talent Group. But then there's also a lot of fresh talent that I don't know. And, that 90-year-old hot dog vendor who was one of my favorite auditions I ever saw. He was so adorable. I watched it 4 times. But he did come from LA and he did work local to Cleveland, and just knowing the people that are able to do that because they're from here or have family here. And then there are people that are in Florida and never been here, and you're going to have to put them up if you want them. So
you're talking about watching videos and everything. This is obviously something that drastically changed during the pandemic, correct? Of taped auditions. Do you prefer taped auditions now, or are you still like clamoring for the old days?
Overall, I prefer taped auditions because, one, it allows me to see a lot more people. When I bring you into my casting room, or when I did bring people into the casting room, I can't say hello. And then if your acting's not up to par, dismiss you immediately. It's not in me. I can't, and it's rude and I wouldn't do it. So you have to have like at least you got a good 4 minutes, which doesn't sound like a long time, but when you're 9 to 5, even taking like a 30-minute lunch, you can only cram in so many people in that time. But videos, I can watch your video, and if in 30 seconds I know you're not there, I'm moving on to the next. And that allows me to see a lot more videos. I have nothing to lose by inviting you to audition. The bad thing about it is there are people I watch and I'm like, man, if they just would have done A, B, and C, I could put them through. And I don't, unless I really need them. Example, they're that Chinese speaking Mandarin man and I don't have a lot coming in, so I'm going to redirect that. Then I'm not going to have time to email them back and give direction and ask for a new tape. So that's the disservice it is for all of us. But I also think that's where actors just have to make sure they're meeting with their coaches and their training. And I think we lose a lot of that. I think that this industry, if you were to say, like, what does it take to be part of this industry? It's 2 things. It's networking and it's drive. And that drive and hustle for an actor, you've got to be ready when you see the casting director. And that takes that training, and that takes having a coach watch your audition before it comes to me. And so hopefully that's ironed out. But so that's what you do lose, is being able to redirect, but you gain seeing so many more actors than we ever were able to see before.
Are you saying, are people, I can't think of a better word, but are people being lazier now with this?
Yeah, unfortunately. I remember when after the pandemic and actors were like, well, they expect us to be crew now too, because now we have to know how to self-tape and set up. And I think at the end of the day, like, we all in our jobs have things we have to do. One of your questions you had put was like, what are the challenges of running a casting company in Cleveland? And my answer to that was, the challenges are when I'm not working in this slower market, I have expenses every month that have to be paid whether I'm working or not. My database that I manage, my Zoom account, whatever. It's the same thing. Like, I have things I don't want to do as a casting director. I have to do them, but I'm very blessed when I'm working to be, making that money and doing really well. And it's a great industry. It's kind of the same for actors. Like, this is where we're at. But if you guys could take a minute, buy the $30 Amazon setup, learn the self-tape, then it will behoove you, because you're getting into more casting directors. You can live in Cleveland, Ohio, and you can submit to Chicago. And you don't have, my son had a Chicago agent since he was 7. And we would get a call at 7 o'clock at night I'd be sitting watching TV. I'd get a text. Michael has an audition at 11 a.m. And we would get in the car and drive to Chicago. He would be in the audition room for 3 minutes. I would time it every time because we drove 6.5 hours to be in that audition room for 3 minutes. These actors don't have to do that. So, well, yes, you have to go by the Amazon kit and you have to figure out the technology of it. You don't have to drive 6.5 hours to Chicago every time you have an audition. So there's good pros and cons to it.
Mm-hmm. So if somebody's putting together a videotape audition, what are like the 3 things do not do?
Yeah.
Immediately put you out.
Don't tape your audition with your phone vertical because it puts these 2 black frames around you. And what you have to know is like everyone I work for, like in the past year, will have worked with Scorsese, J.J. Abrams, M. Night Shyamalan, James Gunn, like pretty big directors in a year. We've worked with like top 5 really big directors. Those are my CEOs. I can't give them a tape with like your audition, like right now, my background. If your background has this bookshelf behind it and the tape that can't go through. It's got to be a clear, nice, clean background, a sheet or a blue wall or gray wall. It has to be taped horizontal so that I don't get those black lines. And then not having a reader, which a lot of people don't realize is a big deal, but it's a big deal because acting is so much more about your active listening. Like when you watch a movie, you know that someone's in love before they say it. You know that there's, someone did something wrong, the foreshadowing the killer because of you're watching them think. The camera's your best friend and it reads every expression. And that active listening, if we can't see that, that's more powerful than the words most of the time. So if you don't have a reader, then we're missing that. You're going from line to line and we're not seeing your active listening. So not having a reader, taping the wrong way, and not having that background are 3 pretty strong, I had an audition once and it came from an agent, surprisingly, and it was for something with it was when we were doing Blade. So, big Marvel movie. Mm. And it was taped in the movie theater lobby with the popcorn machine behind them popping. And I just didn't even have words like where that was coming from. So, I think you got to do your homework and you have to take a class and you have to know what self-taping is. And I'm also a big advocate for we're not all going to be good at everything. I'm horrible at technology, but that's why I have 2 assistants that are 25 years old because they're really good at it.
So, yes. I like that. But I've assumed the person that has a popcorn machine popping in the background or whatnot heard the sage advice at one time, do something that makes you stand out. Would you say that what's going to make you stand out? One, having that right look for the role. Like everybody that goes out for a role is not going to get it because you're looking for certain things, and people shouldn't take no as you're not good enough, just not, you're not good for this part. Right. Yeah. But how does somebody stand out then to you? Just nailing it?
I think number one, the biggest thing you can stand out because, booking the room, right? You're not going to be right for every audition. It's booking the room. It's making the casting director remember you and go, do you remember that actor that read for us for, Cherry? They weren't right for that, but I really would love to see them for this. And that's what every actor should go for because you're definitely not going to get most of the auditions you go for because there's just so many actors and less auditions right now, especially. But it's sticking in a casting director's mind so they keep calling you in. And booking the room, to me, standing out to me, are the people that are professional, they're prepared, they don't waste my time. There's a SAG rule that we're not allowed to request that you memorize your material. And so we don't. But if I have, I'll average 100 to 200 auditions per role, depending on the project. Mm. So let's just even say 75. Let's say it's a really small project and I get 75 people and 70 of them are memorized and 5 aren't. Who do you think is going to have the stronger audition? So logistically, yeah, you don't have to memorize, but the more prepared you are, the cleaner setup and the stronger you are, that shows me you want it. And I'm going to want to put you forward. And if you're not right for that role, and there's so many things that actors don't think about, you could not be right for the role because you're taller than the person that's going to play opposite of you. Or you look too, I had this happen once. I was auditioning a girl for the role of Hot Girl in the convertible. And the director was like, gosh, she's definitely the most talented we've seen, but she looks too much like our lead. And that's it. She's out, So there's a lot of reasons that you can be out. But I think just being prepared is really what makes you stand out. Now, what makes you stand out in your acting is being you. We want to stand out so badly that we think of all these ways to stand out. But really, if you think about it, everyone is designed and created so differently. Our voices are different, our mannerisms are different, our thought process are different. You're going to react different to someone cutting you off than I'm going to react different, right? Like, I don't know, are you a road rage person, or are you like, they're having a bad day?
Nihilistic.
Right. So,
whatever.
so we're all going to react different. And so by you being naturally unique as yourself, you're standing out. And so it's kind of that less is more theory when it comes to film acting.
Nice. Let's go all the way back to the beginning.
Sorry, we probably jumped the gun and we just started going at it.
No, but that was, I mean, all that was sage advice. I don't know if I even had those specific questions in here, but for everybody that wants to know who you are as a person, Angela, how'd you get into casting in the first place?
So I ran a theater for 20 years. And I directed shows. I loved it. I love live theater. It was great. It started out as a children's theater and grew. And so when I would do shows, people would always be like, "Your casting on your shows is just always the best," which I didn't think anything of that compliment. And so when Spider-Man 3 came to Cleveland, back with Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man,
Love it. That's mine.
Yeah, yep. My choreographer said, "Do you want to be an extra?" And I was like, "Sure, I'll be an extra. Let's do it. Let's go on a movie set. It'll be fun." And we got cast as extras, and we were what they call core extras. So we were on set every day for 2 weeks. And you know that sick to your stomach feeling you get, and you're like, "I have to do this. This is what I have to do." And that was it. I was like, and I had no idea in the moment. I was like, I live in Cleveland, Ohio. At that point, there was not that many films in Cleveland.
Right.
So it was like, how am I going to move to Hollywood? Like, I have 3 children. How is this going to happen? But I just fell in love with the industry. I fell in love with the fact of the power that the industry had to be able to tell a story. Like in theater and working for a nonprofit, you're very limited to your budget and what you can do and the local talent that you have, which is great. We have great theater talent, but in film, you're pulling from the world, and the best of the best are coming together and putting these projects together and telling these stories. I've never seen so much power as I have in film and being able to tell stories and what they can do. So at that point, I just started interning for free for 3 years for a casting director. And I did everything. I actually thought I wanted to be an agent. I didn't understand at that point. So I was working for this casting director. She was sending me to set. I worked for free for 3 years. I fell in love with it. And I thought, I am sending her so much talent. I'm going to be an agent. And so, because I ran this theater, so I had access to all this talent. And I didn't understand the difference between film and theater acting at that time either. So I formed an agency, and I learned within about 3-4 months that was not what I wanted to do, because being an agent, you're stuck behind a desk, you're dealing with contracts, you're sending. I wanted to be more of the telling the story and helping the vision come to life and being part of filming. And that's where I reached out to someone named Donna Belichick, who ended up becoming my mentor. She's a big casting director in Pittsburgh. And she was like, "Well, first of all, if you want me to help you, you have to figure out, what do you want to do? Do you want to be an agent, or do you want to be a casting director?" And, it kind of evolved from there. I started exploring. Donna gave me my first job, paid $10 an hour, and she bought me a Panera breakfast. So that was like a really, really big deal. And it all kind of grew from there. She gave me opportunities, and I started people started noticing me on those sets where I was working and giving me my own jobs. And 15 years later, here I am.
So when you say the people were noticing you and giving you your own jobs, who are those people?
Different crew members that like, for example, I remember the very first job I got, it was called Miss Meadows with Katie Holmes. And the girl that was the makeup artist, and this is something I always say, you never know who's going to do what on the sets. So the girl that was the makeup artist called me. I was shocked. I was so floored by this call. And she said, "Angela, I've watched you hustle around this set. Every day you come, you give us exactly what we need, et cetera, et cetera. I'm actually producing a film with somebody I want you to meet, and we're interested in having you cast our film." Nice. Yeah, that was my first job, which I failed. I totally failed it because I didn't understand the difference between theater and film actors. So I gave them a really bad casting link, and I learned my lesson, and that never happened again. But I think you have to fail to grow. You have to fall to figure it out. So yeah, that's how I started. And I think that I think we're really our team, and I'll say our team because I'm nothing without my team, but I think our team is really strong and really good at what we do. But I will credit that to two things. We work well as a team. We make up for each other's weaknesses, like what I'm not good at, they're good at, what they're not good at, I'm good at, and so on. But also we put ourselves out there in bigger markets. And I think the way that Cleveland is going to grow and the way that we've grown is by learning in bigger markets. You know, we just did our first TV series in Nantucket, and that I can now bring that back and work on foreshadowing might work on a TV series here, so I'll just leave that there. But you know what I mean? It's the growth of the bigger markets and learning. It's hard to grow when the work is sparse here. You need to be working constantly. So since June, we've been on 3 projects at any given time. And so that's what's making our team so strong is growing from all these different, just on Super Troopers, we had to, find everything from Indian strippers to Indian wedding attendant, it's
Checks
elephant
out.
handlers, and that's something that helps you grow as a team.
I think that's sage advice right there, is that I think what makes a great leader is knowing your own weaknesses. We all have weaknesses, and to find the people below you or not below you, but working with you that can plug those holes in your weakness with their strengths. I mean, I think far too much we see leaders that have just impossible egos, and that's kind of attaching yourself to a sinking ship. So I like that. I also like the fact that what you brought up is when I tell people networking is very strong. I don't necessarily like the word networking. I don't think anybody likes the word networking. But what I pretty much say is go into a room and just be nice to everybody inside of it, because you never know which one of those people is going to be that connection that helps you along the way moving forward. So even the makeup artist who you're like, well, will I need a makeup artist later in life? You're going to need a friend, and that friend is going to help you get Miss Meadows.
Yeah. And I always tell people too, you should be nice to everyone because it's just the right thing to do. But you also do not know where I will tell you, when I was an extra twice. It was Spider-Man, and then Fun Size. Okay. And when I was an extra on Fun Size, there was a few people that were not the nicest people. And I can tell you, seeing them later as casting director, I was not in a hurry to do them any favors. So you do not know where someone's going to end up, for sure.
And it's also a slippery slope, because I was swing gang. Rob Ruggieri got me into the swing gang when I first got into Cleveland. And the crew on some of these things were just so pessimistic. Like on day 3, they suddenly hated their life and didn't want the project to be. It was like a week-long project. I was like, we are making way more money than I am in the kitchen. So I'm having the time of my life here. Yep. But it's easy to get into those groups and then just start being one of the pessimistic ones. So
I think when you have to remember, when you're in film, and I hear you so loud, because I hear that sometimes from so many of my colleagues, whether it's an agent that's like, are you kidding me? They're canceling someone, or whether it's a crew member that's like, we chose this industry. We know this industry. It's fast. It's ever changing. You can do anything in life outside of the industry, because the industry throws so many curveballs at you that nothing in life will surprise you. But if you choose this industry, you're choosing everything that goes with it, and I personally embrace that and love that. And there are nights at 11 o'clock at night that I have to remind myself of that. But we have a rule on our team. We're never allowed to say, are you kidding me? Because we chose this, So you're so right about that. And I hear that. And it's not for everybody.
But there's something for everybody in it, which I think people don't really understand. They go well, I want to work in film, but I'm not an actress. And it's like, well, you don't have to be an actress to work in film. There is so many different jobs at this level, or just across the board. Any lawyer that I run across, I'm like, you can easily work. They need lawyers in every corner of this industry. Yep. But not to get too far from theater, are you still involved in theater?
No, not at all. I had founded a theater and ran it for 20 years, and then we sold it to BW College. And then I just mainly focused on my film career. I love theater. I love live arts. I do not love having to raise funds to put on a production and making no money and running a nonprofit, everyone in the world analyzing everything you do. I do not love any of that. I love that in film, I can have that creative outlet and there's no restrictions. Like Superman, we're standing in public square and flying Superman and Hawkgirl and, Mr. Terrific over public square. And then there's an animal wrangler and a little squirrel in a box. And you know what I mean? Like we are making everything that James Gunn wants to happen is going to happen on that set. And there is a team of 100+ people making it happen. Where in theater, it's endless volunteers that are exhausted and you cannot possibly repay them what they do. And, it doesn't ever, it always falls short because you never have the funds that you want. I remember a theater in Akron, Carousel Dinner Theater, and they had the best shows and they closed. It's like every good theater closes because of funding, and that sucks.
Yeah. Well, when I first got here, we ran a theater outside of the Cleveland Playhouse, the original, like the oldest regional theater in America, which Cleveland Clinic bought for it to be a parking lot. So it's like,
yeah,
what are we doing here?
I know. Live theater is so beautiful. It's just not funded like I wish it was.
Yeah. So you said that you saw the difference between film and theater acting, but also I feel like theater acting prepares actors for, like you said, like the active listening or the active reacting. Would you say for anybody that's, not finding their acting gigs for film right now because film is kind of light, should they find themselves in the theater to, keep honing in on their skills? Or is it just too much of a difference to maybe don't get into bad habits?
Such a tricky question. My kids did both theater and film, and I think you can 100% do both theater and film. You have to understand the transition and you have to be heavily active in both to maintain it. And let me explain that a little more. So there's a girl, Lauren Nichols. We run a film school in Cleveland, and she owns the film school with me. And she books almost every film that comes here. She's a super strong actress, and she was called by Kane Park to be the lead in one of their, I think it was Rock of Ages. I think it was. Okay. And she said her director the whole time kept being like, Lauren, bigger, bigger, because she had been out of theater for so long that she had, she was really, really film minded. And if you aren't maintaining both, it's like I get theater actors back when it was in the room that all the time I'd be like, throw it away, dial it back, throw out the theater acting. We want to dial our voices up and make our animation really big. And nobody talks like that. We don't talk to each other like that. We talk just like you and I are talking. And so I think it's a slippery slope. I hate to tell anybody, especially in a market like Cleveland, no, don't do theater, because theater is wonderful and beautiful and it's fun and you should do it. But I think you have to maintain your film training at the same time, because film, there's so many different facets to it. Auditioning is different than scene study is different than script analysis is different than commercial is different, etc. And it's not even just what kind of technique are you? What kind of actor are you? Are you a comedic actor? Are you a dramatic actor? Are you an actor that needs preparation or someone that has to take it cold? There's so many things that if you don't maintain your training and you don't stay strong in that, and my daughter has about 10 auditions a week. She has 6 agents. She has an agent in Chicago, an agent in Atlanta, agent in Cleveland. So she is continuously training and she's in her classes and she's doing all these auditions. If she goes and does a play, she's going to be fine because she's doing both. But if my son who is really strong and he's booked a ton growing up, he has been doing nonstop theater lately. He hasn't auditioned for a film in 3 years. I think he'd have a rough time right now because it's been too long, and they both decided to go separate ways. He stayed with theater, she stayed with film. But I think you have to keep the skills sharp. You can't walk away and expect that they won't be rusty. So it's kind of a loaded question. Yes, I think you should do theater, but I also think you need to be very mindful of your training and stay there. But also keep in mind that not a lot of films come here. So if you've committed to a play and then a film comes and then that's going to cross with your show dates or your tech week, you're out of that film. So I think it's what do you want? And if you want both, you need to know how to manage it. And if not, what do you want more? Left field question, but your film school, what all do you cover at the film school? Yeah, so it's called First Team Actor Studio. It's spelled 1ST, not the word first. And that's because our goal is to get people to be first team on set. And we have amazing teachers, all working actors, because we're very much of the mindset if you're not a working actor, then you shouldn't be teaching people how to work. And they've got credits from Shawshank to Saving Private Ryan to all the way up to these current Tom Hanks film in Pittsburgh, A Man Called Out. Like they're all, if you look at their IMDb, all working actors. And the classes cover everything from, like I said, like from improv to auditioning to scene study. And we take you, the very first class that we encourage people to take is Actors Arsenal. And that's basically the business side of it, knowing your type. I'm never going to go be Belle at Disney World. It's not going to happen for me right now for a lot of reasons, so like what type am I if I was an actor? Knowing about your agent relationship, knowing why you don't up and move to California right now, knowing about SAG and should I join SAG in Cleveland, Ohio? And what are those rules and your resume and the difference between a commercial actor and a film actor and all of those things, anything from your script analysis to your auditions, there's all of it. We have online teachers from New York, Chicago, and LA that we work closely with, and we keep it super affordable. We allow about 12 people per class. And it started because when I did Cherry with the Russo brothers, Tom Holland was in every scene with all 28 actors I had to cast. And I couldn't find a local actor to say, what can I get in your coffee without making it about themselves? And what actors forget is how often do you go to a movie and you walk out of that movie and you go, that barista that sold the coffee to McConaughey, the best actor I've ever seen. Nobody does that. We don't remember the barista because the barista's professional job is to move the story along for Matthew McConaughey and Jennifer Garner, whoever the two leads are. It's the atmosphere. It's part of moving the story along. There's no backstory to cop number 2. He's cop number 2. He comes in, he arrests you, and he goes.
Right.
So remembering that all of us want to act and we want to tell these stories, and that's beautiful. And you hopefully get to do that in your career. But when you're playing a day player role, it's simply about going and being professional, doing your job and moving the story along. And people were forgetting that. Out of 28 actors, I think I cast 4 locally and the rest had to come in from Chicago and Atlanta. So I called Lauren, who had been studying with Leslie Kahn in LA and many other big, great names in LA. And she was training my kids on Zoom. And I was like, Lauren, I'm hesitant to say this because when I'm not working, I like to go to Disney and take a cruise and not have extra work. But I really do feel like the Cleveland market needs a strong teacher. How do you feel about doing this school? And so we talked at length about it. And although we were both a little nervous because it wasn't at the forefront of what either of us wanted to do, we knew it was needed and we knew we were qualified to do it. And so we did it. And at first it was just Lauren was the only teacher. And then it so quickly grew. We got these there was a guy at the time named Joe Massey who had just moved here. He had been on 365 episodes of a soap opera in New York and moved here for family. And he became one of our first teachers. He since has moved back, but it just grew like that. And we just kept attracting these great teachers. And now I think we're in our 4th or 5th year. And the first or second year, I was a little nervous. I'm like, it's not working. Nobody's booking. But then by year 3, now our actors are booking Chicago. We've got 1 recurring on Law and Order, Chicago Med. We had 6 of them with Donna Belichick cast in Shooting Stars. And 3 of them were 33 days on that movie. And, they're all working. Our actors that have been with us a little bit of time are all working. So it's working. So that was why we started it. We thought there's nobody here that's training people and they need to understand that it's not about them. And they need to understand that so many people are like, I'm an actor, but they don't understand any of the skill set to being an actor.
So you said that a lot of your teachers are from all over. Do you do in person?
Yeah, so we do have local, David Vey is an instructor at Case and for film, and he also lives in Cleveland, and he's one of our teachers. So we have 6 David Veys, right? 6 local teachers that are really skilled. They've got great resumes and they're local. And then we work with about 3 or 4 that are online teachers that are teaching just our online portion of it. And that's for the people local that want to get teaching from a bigger market, or for people that aren't local that want to get online teaching, that's solid teaching. It's hard to find solid teaching because everybody wants to make money in this industry and you see a lot of scams out there. And so it's hard to find, people that really just want you to do a good job and want to teach you how to act and want to be part of the community. And what I always also encourage actors is it's about the journey too, and all of these people that John DeQuino is a good friend of mine. He played Corey in the house on I'm sorry, he played the president on Corey in the House, on Disney Channel's Corey in the House, and he was in Seinfeld and all these things. And he guest teaches for us a lot. He actually comes out once a year, and he said, yeah, I think a lot of the actors forget, like, now he's very successful, but he's like, I still remember all the actors I met in class and the friendships. And you know what I mean? There's something to be said about the journey. I actually just had this conversation with one of our students yesterday. I was like, John, don't forget the journey. Like in 10 years, if you have everything you want, like don't be so fast to get there that you're forgetting all the roles you're getting right now and how exciting it was to be on Chicago Med for the first time, and who your accountability partner in class is right now, because there's something about that journey as well.
We're talking a lot about like how casting has changed, and you brought up like just enjoy the journey. Do you think, because we are wildly in this social media generation and TikTok and everything and people going viral overnight, do you think the patience for making it has dimmed?
Oh yeah, there's a reason we don't offer kids programs.
Okay.
Whenever kids come to us, we always say like, listen, you can reach out to one of our coaches to work with you for a private on an audition, but kids just don't. Adults don't even have the delayed gratification that much, and yeah, we always see a huge amount of people in our beginner classes, and then it dies off as you get to our advanced classes. And that's why, like in this industry, that's one of the things that's going to set you apart. If you really want it and you can work for it and wait for it. 3 years of working for free when I was very successful and ran a nonprofit. And like, I remember being on set as an extra and in Fun Size, and I was wearing a wig because it was a Halloween movie, and it was a 95-degree building with no air in July. Mm-hmm. And it was a 6-night overnight shoot. And I remember thinking to myself, why am I doing this? Like, what am I doing? I'm dressed up like a fairy right now, and I'm hot, and I have a successful business. Like, I don't have to do this. And I can tell you now, it was 100 million times worth it for so many moments that were beautiful moments in my life, whether it's, being in Nantucket on this TV series, whether it's dancing to Sweet Caroline at a rap party with Tom Holland, whether it's, sitting at a table with the vice president of Paramount Pictures and so many talented people talking about an amazing, beautiful story we're making, or even telling the story of Anthony Bourdain with A24, which was also such a great project. Like, it's so worth it when you get there, but it's not going to happen if you cannot persevere through it. It's definitely, there's very few people that just make it automatically. When I ran a theater, I have a couple students that are very successful in film right now. One of them was Lily Reinhart, who I'm not sure if you know Lily. She was Betty in Riverdale. Yeah.
Yep. I'm in Bay Village right now. She just actually promoted my favorite Chinese place, and now they're packed. And I'm like, come on.
That's awesome. So she was my Brigida in Sound of Music. She was my Alice in Alice in Wonderland. She was kind enough to do, we did a series called From Cleveland for Cleveland with our studio, and her and Tom Hanks actually, and the director of Mean Girls, and Mark and Dina Waters, and Lily Reinhart, and Tom Hanks, and a couple, Monica Potter came on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We had like 6 great Cleveland-based people that came in and spoke to our students on Zoom. And she was passed on the first time for the role of Betty. And then she was pitched again and she got it. But like, if she would have given up, and she had how many seasons of being sick, she would have not had any of that if she gave up when they passed on her the first time. So I think people miss that, and they don't see that side of it. They just see you when you hit. And I think that, a lot of people just don't sustain it. And if they would have sustained it, it's not just talent, it's talent, work ethic, drive, all of that. It was these people really were wonderful. They came on and they Zoomed our students and they just spoke into them. And it was really cool. And they took questions from the audience. And I'm not going to lie, I don't get really starstruck, but talking with Tom Hanks was pretty cool.
Hearing the voice in person and everything.
Felt like I was talking to Woody on Toy Story. Yeah.
So you have a huge sense of responsibility, though, as a casting director. Like, people have to look at you and be like, you're my ticket. You're my ticket in, right? Even probably family members are like, hey, if there's a role for, right? I imagine that's happening to you all the time. How do you deal with that? Like, what's common for you?
So it's funny because I joke with my team all the time, and I'm like, everybody knows us on set, not because like they love me, it's because everybody started as an actor, from the grip to the gaffer to the, everybody's like, hey, Angela, I used to be an actor if you ever want, and it's like, okay. And it's funny when you mention family, because my family's the worst. Like, I've made my family, I told them I'm not making you guys extras anymore, because every time I make them an extra, like I sent my mom to set, and my mom went up to costumes and she was like, oh, do you like my outfit? And the costumes was like, yeah, but we said no white. And she's like wearing an all white dress. And my mom's like, oh, I just skimmed that email. And I'm like, Mom. Or my sister had to bring a dog to set. And then the Humane Society was like, this dog is too old and should not be on set. You need to take him home. My dad left Fast and Furious early sick and took the license plate prop home in the map. Like, they all of them do this to me. But, I do deal with that a lot. And I will tell you this honestly, I love people, which is part of why I do this. I want to invest in people, which is another part of why I open up to my film school and talk to people and help people. However, I'm a very big, I will not help people that don't help themselves. So like, I want it to organically happen where, like, when I see people come in my room or across my TV screen, I guess now, my computer, when I see the effort, when I see them doing it over and over, and I see them training, and I get the emails of what they're doing, like, I respond to that. And it is difficult because sometimes, I can't go on a set without people following me to the restroom. Like, I can't walk 10 feet without everybody in my ear. And that is a really overwhelming feeling. Mm-hmm. It is. It's very overwhelming. And I do genuinely love people, but I also, what the biggest mistake actors make is when they pitch themselves to me. So like, I did an agency event where an agent invited me at the holiday to like their holiday party, and we both spoke, and I had a great time with all the actors that just talked to me. But when the actors came and started telling me what they're doing and pitching their materials, and that's when I tune out and can't get away from that actor fast enough, and it's like, there's got to be a respect for, like, during a workday, the amount of emails and texts and changes from production and producers emailing and first ADs emailing that we deal with that. And then when you have 25 messages in your Facebook or Instagram from people that are like, will you look at my headshots? That's not a casting director's job. That is your coach's job. That is why, and I have become less tolerant since a school exists now, because now I know there's a place people can go. There's qualified coaches, honestly, more qualified than me, because I know if you can act, and sure, I know the basics, but I can't teach you to act. These coaches can teach you to act. These coaches can talk to you about your headshots and resumes. So it is a lot, but again, we go back to, we chose this, and it's funny because one of the funniest things we always say is, we'll call somebody and they'll be like, hello. And I'll be like, hey, Matt. And they're like, yeah, what do you need? And I'm like, this is Angela Boehm. And they're like, oh, hi. And it's a total change in like their voice. And so, you don't really want that. You want people just to be people and be real, but it is what it is, So
you have two assistants who say, what's the vision going forward? Like, what do you hope that Angela Boehm Casting becomes in the future? Or are you just enjoying the ride, like you say?
So I have a couple of people on my team. I have my two main people, Jack and Lily, who I adore and love, and they're with me, whether we're doing a short for the local college or a multi-billion-dollar Superman. And I love that. They're in it for the long haul. We actually just started accepting, we actually put a post out for interns and we got over 300 submissions. So we're just starting to explore that. We want to expand the team because, with us, we're working under the umbrella of Boston Casting, or for Boston Casting. So that's not Angela Boehm Casting when I work in Boston. But, between that and what we're doing here, and then we've worked a little bit in Atlanta, like, I feel that when the film comes back from out of the country, we're going to blow up, because we are already pretty busy without that. So when it does actually get busy, so we really want to be prepared for that, so we're not dying and overworked. And I think that we definitely, although we love working in Cleveland, we can't control what film is coming to Cleveland. So I think that there is definitely a sense of wanting to be able to cast everywhere.
Right. And how did you form that connection with Boston and Atlanta?
Yeah. So Boston put out a thing on CSA and said they were looking for a casting director. And I honestly, applied so flippantly. I didn't expect anything to come of it because I had been looking at Production Weekly for like 3 months, and I submitted for tons of jobs in Tennessee where my son lives, and Florida where my dad lives, thinking like I have their address, I can work local there, and nothing, crickets, which makes sense because, they want to hire local, and I get that. So when I saw Boston's thing come up, I just submitted for it, and I didn't expect anything. And she called me within an hour. I was hired by that night, and we have not stopped working since. Like, I feel like at least 3 projects at a time with them, which has been wonderful. It's just starting to slow down, but we still are on. Like right now, we're on Love of Your Life with Margaret Qualley, and we're on Cheesesteak with Mark Wahlberg. We're doing a day in Chicago and a day in Philly. And then I think there's a couple little things before the holidays, and then it's supposed to be busy again after the new year. So we'll see. Obviously, I always would prefer to work under Angela Boehm Casting and in our area, but work is work right now. We just want to work.
Right. And so you also, like, casting does take the holidays off like the rest of Hollywood, really?
Usually it dies down, but like when we did Cherry, they were filming all through December. So it usually does die down, but then sometimes you will have productions that go through that time period. But yeah, usually it's slow December and picks back up after the new year.
And your 300 interns, were they all local?
I haven't even looked at those applications yet. Yeah, we haven't even looked. We put this out 2 weeks ago, and we've been so busy trying to catch up. We were going to look over the holidays. I also didn't expect to get 300. So I don't know.
That's amazing.
I do know Lily said, I glanced at the interns and we got one from South Africa. So I don't think they're all local, but we'll see.
Nice. I have a personal question for you because it's something that's always been bothering me. I'm a screenwriter. My listeners know I write. And when I sell projects, the producers will usually come to me and be like, can you give us a wish list of like your favorite, like who do you see in these roles? To me, this is them just trying to keep me excited and like keep the options going. But like nobody cares what the writer thinks, do they?
I have had no experience with writers that aren't directors. Every writer I've ever worked with is also the director. I would like to think they do care what the writer thinks. I'd like to say that, Matthew. I really would. You look at bigger movies, like how much, maybe this is a bad example right now, considering all the media, but like how much Colleen Hoover was involved with It Ends With Us. Like she was very involved in that. So I feel like they would care. But every writer I've ever worked with was also the director. So that's really hard for me to answer that.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I usually go like, because one of the reasons I got into film was because being a playwright, everything falls on you. Like if that play sucks, it's because you wrote a sucky play. And I was like, I would like to blame other people too. So I got into it. And then when they're like, what do you think about the cast? I was like, find a director and then ask them, because I have no idea. I would sit in auditions with my directors and be like, I like this person, and be like, I like that person. And then they would be right. And I'd be like, okay, so I have no flair for this casting.
Yeah, but if you have the vision of what you're writing and somebody comes to your mind, I think there's a lot to be said about that. And it's like also something we always say at First Team, like if I say something and a teacher says something and it's different, it doesn't mean one's wrong or because I'm the casting director, I'm right. It's creative world. I've been on Zooms in a callback where there's 6 people in that callback, a director, a producer, a showrunner, whatever, and everybody's on a different page. And it doesn't mean somebody's wrong. It's a creative world we're in.
Yeah. I mean, usually the help I give is like Michelle Rodriguez 20 years ago. So I don't know. To switch gears a little bit, I've already taken an hour of your time. I'm super appreciative.
Has it been an hour already? Wow. Wow.
But the Oscars are finally awarding for casting. I think this is the opening credits of film. This is the only one that they had not awarded yet. They were awarding for directing, production design, and so casting is finally getting its day in the light. What do you see this award really becoming? As far as, is it going to be kind of like a popularity contest, or is it going to really be diving into like what you would say is like, oh, every role was nailed in that film?
I don't see it being a popularity contest. And let me also say really quick before we even get into what it's going to be or is, I was shocked that it wasn't an award. I don't have any understanding behind that because casting directors are so very much a part of the collaboration process and the storytelling. Like we don't do anything less than anybody else. There's no, I'm mind boggled that it wasn't. Yeah, I'm mind boggled that it wasn't. Yeah, and so when I found out it was, I was shocked. shocked and thrilled. And I think it was one of those things you just never thought was going to happen, sadly. And I'm not a pessimist, but that was one thing that I was like, well, Hollywood makes its rules and that's what it's going to be. And one thing that makes me sad is the many casting directors that would have deserved that award that will never see it. I think of the casting documentary Casting By. Have you ever seen that?
I have not.
It's a fantastic documentary with Maureen Doherty. And, she was a fantastic casting director with just actors fought for this award for her. And it just never came to light. And that sucks that now that she is gone, someone like her will never get to even be up for that award. I don't think it will be a popularity contest. I do think that, you look at a film, one of the questions you had asked was if there was a film that could have won the award, if the award existed, what film? And I thought a lot about that question. One of the films that comes to mind was Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And it's such a stellar cast by Victoria Thomas, Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie, who is excellent in that, Margaret Qualley, who, even though she had a small part, I loved in that, Austin Butler before he was really known, just so many people in that cast that was so well done. Even Bruce Dern, just such a little part, but just so brilliantly done. And
Dakota Fanning too.
Yes. Yep.
Completely against cast.
She dotted her I's and crossed her T's. And that's the thing that I think this award, to me, it's not just about Brad Pitt and Leonardo DiCaprio. It was about every little piece of that. And you could even take a movie like Field of Dreams, and when they go into town and everybody in town that they talk to, I don't know if you remember that movie, maybe, yeah. So, because I know it can be a while, it was an older movie, but it's the detail. It's every supporting role that, like we talked about, tells that story, that is right in that story. And I think that, to me, it's about the detail. It's about the whole picture. It's about the atmosphere and the story that we're telling and creating. And I do think a lot of casting directors fought for this, and there's a lot of very deserving casting directors for it.
Do you think, so that brings up a good point of, it's those bit roles, not the baristas, but it's those bit roles that really stand out and kind of drive it home for you. Is it going to be, if you're looking at the best casting award, would you be like, well, yeah, Leo's going to Leo and Morgan Freeman's going to Morgan Freeman, but they nailed that supporting role, or even the next level down underneath the supporting role, those little parts, are those going to be kind of what you go they found that person and that's what deserves the award? I
truly feel like it's all of them. Because you even look at Superman and how they had to replace Superman. That could have ruined the movie if they replaced him with the wrong man. I just feel like or you even hear about people that are like, I won't watch that actor that's Lee is horrible. It has to be the complete picture. And I think that's where you have a good casting director that's not just I have to just focus in on these leads. I have to and then they're messy with the rest of it. I think it's a casting director like Vicky Thomas who cared down to every single little role. Bruce Dern was in that for one scene and it was perfectly cast. And, I just think it's the whole picture. I think it's not either or. I think it's the whole picture. I think that's really important.
Where do you think the award, like you said, you were surprised that it wasn't an award. Where do you think it came from? Did you in the casting directing circles hear about them rumbling that this was going to maybe happen in the future?
Didn't hear about it before. I watched a video, a Screen Actors Guild, I think it was a video after, about casting directors, I think, that fought for it or pitched it and kept pitching it over and over. So I don't know the details on that, but I remember what I did like, and I wish I could remember the casting director's name. He was on a panel with Kim Coleman and Victoria Thomas and a couple other casting directors. And now I'm going to have to go back and look, but this gentleman was very passionate about how they approached this. And I think it was fought for. I don't know the logistics of it because honestly, sometimes I just tend to stay in my wheelhouse and if I don't get the next job and let me do and stay out of all the politics and the creative. But I do like the creative of all of it. And so during Christmas time, when I have a low time, I like to really look at this stuff and watch these interviews. And I remember being really impressed with this guy.
You brought up Superman, and that did bring up a good point because Superman is one of those characters where people are like, Christopher Reeves is always my Superman, or Dean Cain, or whoever you're going to throw out there. And there's always vitriol when the announcement is first made. But obviously, that man nailed it, and everybody that goes to see Superman is like, he was really good as Superman.
Yeah,
Like,
David Burnett,
yeah, like everybody is like, eating crow or whatever the saying is. As a casting director, you're just looking for the best person in the role. Like, is there like a little twinge in the back of your mind, like this might cause waves, or are you just like, no, best man up, best woman up?
When I'm casting or when I'm just watching?
Either or.
Because when I'm casting, it's very different in this smaller market. You know what I mean? Like, I think there was also a question that was like, have you ever fought for anybody? I think in this smaller, I've definitely pitched people. I've definitely like brought people to the table that were not requested or that I wanted the director to be aware of. But I've never had to fight for anybody because in this small market, you show a good actor and they're thrilled that they don't have to fly somebody out. Mm-hmm. So it's much easier in this market. I definitely think, you hear about even people like the Russo brothers or James Gunn, they all get slack, and so, yeah, I think James got a lot of slack for David Cornsweet and the falling out that was had with the previous Superman. So it's like, I feel like when you're a creative, you just have to, I learned really early on, you have to have thick skin, and it's like, we don't have to be right. We just have to tell a beautiful story with intent. Like, are we telling something that's a historical story and it has to be accurate? Are we telling a motivational story? Whatever we're doing, and we have to just, I don't think there's a right or wrong to it. I think some people will love it, some people are hate it. When I think about you could talk about a movie in a circle and half people hate it, half people love it. I recently worked with, I don't know, I got to choose what I want to say here so I don't say anything wrong, but I worked with a director that I was really excited to work with. And my son was like, I don't know, Mom, don't tell anyone you're working with him because he just ruined this movie. And I was like, he to me is still a brilliant director, but you have those sayers, those hate sayers or naysayers that are going to say that stuff, So I think in this industry, it comes down to just being like, bring it to the table and be happy what you did. And you can't let everybody else dictate it or define it. I don't know if that's coming out right.
So as a writer, like when I'm watching a movie, it's ruined because I'm breaking down its structure and everything like that. Is movie watching ruined for you?
100%. Yes. Yes. I'm thinking about how cold it was on that day that we filmed, or how they cut the scene that I worked so hard on, or how whatever was. Yes, absolutely.
What about movies that you have not worked on? Are you like recasting them in your head?
Yeah. Yeah, or I'm thinking about silly things because we deal so much with contracts, and in Boston, everybody's SAG. So in Cleveland, the background's not SAG, but in Boston it is. So it's everything from you can't book a person, you can't say the word booked until a certain time, you can't cancel after 5 o'clock. You all the rules that come with SAG. Mm-hmm. And so you think about, I cast White Noise and we had a lot of dancers in White Noise and all the rules. So then when I saw Spirited, the Christmas special with Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell, and I was like, oh, okay, these are the professional dancers, and did they pay these people professional, or we just called them movers in White Noise, and we weren't allowed to rehearse them. And so you're logistically going, you're watching this dance number and going, okay, how did they do this? Who was on a contract? Or you'll hear an extra say something and you're like, were they a day player hired with one line, or did they just do that and the director got lucky? All of those things go through your mind. I don't think you can shut it off.
Right. Yeah. No, but you're just getting bumped left and right.
Yeah.
What am I watching? Have you watched anything recently where you're like, great casting? They nailed it.
I usually try and watch my movies for the Oscars in January after the holidays, or even during December when we're calmed down. I'm not kidding you, we've been so busy. It's been 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. So I haven't watched a lot lately, to be quite honest. Ask me that question in February. I'll have a very different, it's every night I'm watching movies nominated or up for Oscars because I want to be, and what? I'll tell you another thing in this industry, you have to watch movies you don't like, genres that you don't like, so that you can understand or know the industry, know what's currently going on, see different, when I worked with James, I'd never seen Suicide Squad. So I watched that to kind of get his flavor. I'm not a Marvel person at all. So, or I shouldn't even say Marvel because Superman wasn't Marvel, but I'm not an action DC, Marvel, any of those. So I had to do my homework on that, even though it might seem silly. It's easy. It's Superman, but you want to know that I don't want to give James people he's not going to respond to. So
We brought up Tom Hanks, but Tom Hanks has a book, Uncommon Type, I think is the title of it. And in the beginning of it, he says he never walks out of a movie because he can always learn something from even the movies that he doesn't like.
He's got so much character in that man. He told us a story about how the guys on That Thing You Do were late once and never happened again. He's like, you don't go late to set. And he's just got so much integrity. And I wish that everybody had that kind of integrity. Yeah, he does. He said, I'll never make a PA knock on my door.
You brought up Maureen Doherty that should have won an Oscar. Is there anybody working today that you're like, hands down, the best?
Well, Victoria Thomas, I think not only Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I mean, she's just got she's just got so much great work behind her. I also think Kim Coleman, also a lot of great work. There's so many casting directors that just are brilliant. So many. Those are definitely two that I would name right off the top of my head without thinking about it. But I think there's so many. I think if I were to really think about that question and look at films, there's so many because this award wasn't a thing. I mean, how long has the Oscars been? 98 years. So 98 years of people collaborating and working just like everybody else and not being recognized. That truly blows my mind. I just have no idea why anybody thought that this was not a category that deserved to be recognized. So I think about a lot of those people and look at the casting director for The Godfather, like will never be recognized, There's so many films that should have gotten this award.
Yeah, absolutely. The John Hughes, even like movies kind of like the John Hughes movies, like to find all those, the Andrew McCarthy's of the world and everything, and bring them all to light is one of those things. And I'm hoping that because the Academy has the reputation of historical dramas, historical fiction, historical drama, that's the wheelhouse. But I'm hoping that this will open it up to the science fiction movie because a lot of people overlook the fact that I think movies like James Cameron's Aliens had a great cast of characters in that ship, especially you have Bill Paxton, right? Like just hamming it up for the screen. Is there a movie? I think I wrote this is there a movie that you have seen in the past that you would award the Oscar to hands down?
That was my Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Once Upon a Time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything older than that?
I loved Bridge of Spies.
Okay. Yeah.
I loved Bridge of Spies. I thought that casting was excellent. Did you see that movie?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I thought that was excellent. And I'm going to go even older than that. And this is probably so like not the norm, but Shining Through with Melanie Griffith. Did you ever see that one?
Oh, yeah. With the running at the end.
Loved Shining Through. Yes. Such a great movie. I used to watch that with my grandma. And actually, I worked with Liam Neeson. Well, actually, I didn't work on this, but I met Liam Neeson on a set and talked with him at length because I was there with the cast members. So it was a little different dynamic. And I said to him, my grandma and I used to watch Shining Through once a month. It's one of my favorite movies. And he was like, that was such an awful movie. We filmed it in Germany at one of the worst times. And, he was really funny about it. But I thought that casting was excellent. Michael Douglas, Liam Neeson, Melanie Griffith. So Shining Through. And you could also just really go cliche with Gone with the Wind and Casablanca and Wuthering Heights. Like there's just so many, and then you can go all the way back to the opposite direction to Pulp Fiction. And there's just so many movies that should have, so many casting directors that should have been considered in this, but we're not going to look back now. We look forward and take it on behalf of them. And I think it's going to be, honestly, I think it's going to be really cool this year to see the first winner of the award.
It's groundbreaking regardless.
Yeah.
And hopefully they do a little like kind of retroactive, like this
it would
is
be
all the
so nice. Yes.
That, we built this legacy on the shoulders of all these greats that came before us.
I think it'd be awesome.
But I'm definitely going to get, as soon as the nominations have come out, I'm going to reach out to you and be like, who do you think?
Yes. And I would love to have that conversation and we'll see if we're right.
All right. Just from the personal experiences, what has been actually, before we get there, just real briefly, what do you think goes into at least your thoughts on who should win Best Casting Director for the Academy Awards? Like, what do you think is like the parameters? I'm
going to go back to the detail of it, not just the supporting, but it's it's got to be the whole picture. It's got to be not just your Brad Pitt and your Leonardo DiCaprio, but it's got to be your Bruce Dern in that one scene, Dakota Fanning, Margaret Qualley. Like, it's got to be all the pieces that make up this beautiful cast. Like, even if you look at the chemistry with Margaret Qualley and Brad Pitt, like, I just think it has to go back to dotting your I's and crossing your T's. The casting director not just going, I've just got to get these 6 main roles and the rest of them we can just figure out or just throw the bones to, but we've got to get the perfect cast, the perfect ensemble cast, you know? This is a cheesy one because it's like I don't know, it's like a Christmas movie, but like I love Love Actually.
I love Love Actually.
Yeah, and that casting right there is also like, you know, maybe not as diverse as it should be, but it's still a beautiful cast. So I just think remembering to be inclusive, the diversity, but also that every part, whether it's one scene or they're in every scene, matters. I think that's what it's about for me.
Here's a kind of a question for you. Does it matter if it's a small cast? Because like a movie that I just saw of Heretic with Hugh Grant, I was like, and it's just three actors, right, in one small room. And I was like, wow, they nailed this one.
I don't think it matters that it's a small cast.
Do you think like
all.
Robert Redford would win for All Is Lost?
Yeah.
One man on a ship. You know? Could
Yeah,
you be like,
yeah.
no, that was perfect.
No, yeah. I mean, yeah, you can even look at Matt Damon in Mars or Tom Hanks in
Castaway.
Yeah. So no, I don't think it. No, I don't, because like even when you look at like let's look at Castaway or let's look at Mars, that's difficult to find an actor that can carry that film by himself like that. Not just any actor could do that. So I don't think it matters, you know. And you can even look at like What's Eating Gilbert, great, but smaller cast, but a strong. Like no, I don't think it matters. But I think that I think what it matters is like whether it's that one role and it has to be so strong that he carries it by himself, or like What's Eating Gilbert Grape, where it's that family dynamic. You know, you basically have to just make sure that every role you cast, that they're working together, that they're strong, that they fit. You know, I think it is still. You're giving me a lot to think about with this being such a new award. You know, I haven't stopped and thought about it at length like this. Mm-hmm. You know, when you asked me the question in advance, I was like, okay, what movies have a lot of great actors and nailed it down to every role? And that's where my mind went. You know, then I think about shining through in that era. It takes a certain person to play that era actor. You can't just put anybody in those old school movies. And it takes a certain person to be able to carry a movie by themselves, like Tom Hanks and get in Castaway. So I think there's a lot of factors in it.
I think it's gonna be really interesting when a Castaway goes against like a Saving Private Ryan.
Right?
And you got these people just angry. You know,
yeah, that's true though.
Look, you got like 40 great actors there versus one Tom Hanks. Come on.
But there's so much power in what that one actor can do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah.
So I just award whoever, you know, gives Andrew Scott the role, because Andrew Scott is, to me, like the most phenomenal actor on screen. So is there, I don't know if you can answer this, and maybe you can't, so just tell me to pass, but is there an actor that you haven't been able to cast yet that you're like, man, I'm just waiting to find the role for them?
Yeah, not in a way that I'm like, oh, I love that person. Well, there are people that I'm like, I love that person, I just want them to win. But there's also people like, there's a guy, I won't say his name, but and he wouldn't even know that I thought this of him. But there's a guy that comes across my screen every time I throw out an audition. I always see him. I always think he's good. I always put him in, and he just never hits. And I'm always like, one of these days, this guy's going to hit. I'm going to keep putting him in, you know? He's a guy out of, I think, Cincinnati or Kentucky. I get him from my Cincinnati agent. So, you know, there's those kind of people that I just see and they're good and I want them to win. But then there's also the people that like are working hard and that are good and I want to see have a win. There's both.
So if you're listening, dear listener, that could be you. And don't give up, because there's so many
on your team. That is true.
All right. Well, I absolutely appreciate you coming on. I just have 2 other questions. Yeah. What has been your favorite experience as a casting director so far? So
hard to say, because I've had so many amazing experiences. So when you talk about like my favorite in telling stories, one of my favorite was my friend Dahmer, because I lived through Dahmer. I remember hearing about Dahmer, and I remember how it affected me as a child, as a teenager. And so telling his story, we interviewed his classmates, his 5 friends that wrote a book about him. We interviewed them. We worked closely with them. Ross Lynch played Dahmer, and we actually had people that went to Dahmer's high school. We told the story that had to do with his prom date and his neighbor that, he ran into in the street with a dead cat in the garbage bag. And like all we filmed at his house, which was really eerie and just unsettling. And I think that at the end of the day, because we kind of told the story up until the first murder. And at the end of the day, it was like he was let down by so many people, his teacher, his parents that just left him in the house. And he went to these people. Mental health, he was struggling. He was saying to his college roommate, what do you think your insides look like? He was saying going to with a bat to the wild forest and wanting to kill a dog and stopping himself. So he was having the struggle. And then all these people let him down. If any adult would have not left him down, would 22 people not have been murdered? Would anybody have intervened and stopped this if somebody would have invested in this kid? And telling that story, I think, was powerful for mental health today, and just seeing the behind the scenes of it, because I feel like it was very accurately told. It was not fabricated. It was very much digging into his life, all the way down to how, I remember we had a girl on set that went to high school with him as one of our extras, and she's like, Jeffrey literally walked like that, and it was just very, very profound. But then if you ask me, what was one of your most fun sets? Being on set for Fast 8 was I felt like I was at Universal Studios with VIP privileges. We were pushing cars off the 6th floor downtown Public Square and blowing them up. And I remember at one point there was 28 cameras on set and drones, and it was just amazing experience, and then traveling and doing this TV series in Nantucket was amazing. And we have the ability to tell stories and be with some of the best creators in the world. And I think every job that I take, I learn something and I grow as a casting director. But those are probably some of my favorites.
So even though action is not your type of film to watch, it's definitely your type of film to experience in person.
Yeah, there's a difference between watching it on my couch and getting anxiety and being like, oh, that stunts did really cool. And then talking to the guy at stunts, or casting I remember casting Vin Diesel's double and standing with him on set and people thinking it was him and laughing to myself oh, I did a good job, because it's not Vin at all. So yeah.
The one thing that I think really came out in this whole interview is your want to use your casting to tell the best story that you possibly can. You're very integrated into we're here to tell a story, to entertain the audiences, to make dreams happen with the people that you're giving the jobs to. Is there a project along those same lines where you're like, man, I just want to tell or help tell this story? Is there a film out there that you're growing up, it was one of your favorite films, you would just want to work on I don't want to put a title in your mouth, but if it was me, it would be I want to tell the next Princess Bride or something like that. Is there a film like that you're just clamoring for?
That's a tough question. I feel
it's the last one, so.
Yeah. I feel like stories, the reason I'm so big on telling stories is life is hard. Life is really hard. I mean, let's look at our world right now. We won't even talk about it. It's so bad. And stories have so much power, whether you're telling a historical, I'll never forget being so impacted by the movie Till. Traumatically impacted me, awful. And I never knew that story. And I was not familiar with it. And so I feel that we have the power to teach people about history when they're not looking, but we can teach them this way. I also feel like we can move people. You look at a story like Rudy, and motivate people. And then you can look at something silly like Friends, and people can just be having a bad day and they put Friends on and it goes away. You laugh at Chandler and, Phoebe and that. So I think that what we do is very powerful. And that's such a tough question, because part of me goes to Passion of the Christ. Mm-hmm. I felt like that was so well done. And so, whether you believe the Bible or not, it's got a lot of powerful stories in it.
For sure.
So I feel like something like that, something like retelling stories like that is super powerful. But I also think about stories about racism like Till are something also really powerful, because in my naive mind, before I knew any better, I remember being so shocked about what was going on that I just was so blinded by. So I think stuff that's going to profoundly change people like that, whether it's about, faith or racism, or is very impactful to me. Not that Princess Bride wouldn't be fun, but on a really deep level, that just because life is so hard, and so that I think things that are going to really make people think, what are we doing here? What's it all mean? I think that impacts me a lot.
Awesome. Well, thank you so
much. That's a deep answer, man.
I know. I mean, a huge thank you to you, Angela Boehm from Angela Boehm Casting. I think we should kind of like end this with to not flood your inbox. How could people, if they want to get a hold of you, how should they get a hold of you?
Yeah, I think that actors, that's so hard because the thing is, when we're casting actors, we're going to the agents. And if we need to cast in something that's really difficult and we need to go bigger, we're going to Actors Access. So I think the better way to answer that, like if an actor has a question for me and they want to shoot me an email, especially if we're not busy, I'm going to answer the question. But I think it's reading the room and knowing who does the question really go to? Because if it's a question about your acting and your headshots, that's going to go to your coach. You know what I mean? But if you heard something on this and you have a specific question, feel free to email me for sure. But if it's about like, listen, I want you to book me, train, get your agent, and get on Actors Access. That's honestly the most honest answer I can give you. And I don't mean to sound like that, but I also, I think it's got to stay in the appropriate channels too.
Definitely. And you said like first team actor studio, like obviously sign up for there and that will get you access to a bunch of different coaches that can start your journey for you.
Absolutely.
We'll put the link to that in the show notes.
Yeah, that's great. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming out. I will have an outro to read to the listeners, but I just want to thank you one more time for giving me some of your time for the day. And this is actually the season 6 finale. So this will come out in December, and I will be in touch in February to get your thoughts on the new casting director Oscar.
All right. Thank you so much, Matthew. I appreciate you thinking of me. I really do.
Absolutely.
Man, a huge thank you to Angela Boehm for wrapping up the season with such an insightful chat and for reminding us that casting isn't just about filling roles, but about shaping the emotional DNA of a film. It's a creative art that finally the Academy is starting to recognize with its own Oscar. And as Angela pointed out, it's about time. From her roots in Cleveland theater to her leadership at Angela Boehm Casting, she has built something remarkable, a bridge between local talent and global storytelling. Conversations like this remind us why the Academy and the film world still matter, not just as institutions, but as evolving reflections of the people who make the art. If you've been tuning in all season, thanks for sticking with us through every debate, every what if, and every deep dive into Oscar history. Your support, your messages, and your curiosity keep the show going. We've already started recording season 7, where we will keep exploring the film industry, the politics, the passion, the flaws, and the magic, always asking, what does it really mean to honor great filmmaking? Until then, until we all make it to 2026, I'm Matthew Sprosty, and this has been Season 6 of A Take on the Academy. Thanks for listening, and as always, keep watching, keep analyzing, keep questioning, and keep celebrating the art of movies that move us.
It's the Season 6 finale, my friend. Matthew's flying solo to the bitter end. Lee packed his bags, but the show must roll. One mic, one chair, and a whole lot of soul. Julia Roberts and a megawatt smile. Meryl Streep with her Oscar Isle. Talked Heath Ledger, gave him a bow. The Joker's laugh still echoes now. A take on the Academy. Lights and gold in history. Roll the credits, fade to black. When Matthew's here, he'll bring it back.